Joining us now, NBC's Julie Sirkin reporting on Capitol Hill. Joel Payne, Democratic strategist and former press secretary for Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Brendan Buck is former aide to House Speakers John Boehner and Paul Ryan, and then MSNBC political analyst. So, Julie, how are the impacts of Trump's second term shaping the Democrats' message?
Well, for starters, Chris, I think it's important to remember that all Democrats can really do in the minority is message around these issues, and that's exactly what they're doing. You mentioned that a number of them are going to attend that joint address tomorrow. They're going to have guests seated around the perimeter of the Capitol, of course, the House chamber, where Donald Trump will be delivering his first speech as president to both sides of the aisle, to both sides of the Capitol here. And you're going to see in the stands fired workers from different federal agencies. For example, Brad Schneider, a congressman of Illinois, is bringing a 20-year Army veteran who was laid off from the VA during these cuts that Elon Musk's Doge has been doing over the last month and a half. You're also going to see those impacted potentially by any cuts to SNAP, food benefits, and Medicare and Social Security. Democrats also today highlighting that issue later today as the Social Security Administration apparently is gearing up for layoffs there. You're going to see Schumer and Murray holding that press conference later today. But somebody who's not going to be in attendance tomorrow at that joint address is Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut who's really just been everywhere, spending more on social media platforms in the month of February than in the last 5 years combined. This is somebody who spent his Senate career focused on bipartisan deal making. He was out in front on trying to strengthen gun laws, immigration dealings that we've covered last year. This time, though, he's putting all of his energy and all of his focus into standing up, as he says it, to the billionaire class and to Trump. Take a listen to what he told me in our exclusive interview last week.
This may look a little schizophrenic, having gone from spending 2 years, writing big bipartisan deals on guns or on immigration to now, being out front in trying to fight for the survival of the democracy and using really tough language about my Republican colleagues. But I think, when somebody's trying to grab power, when somebody's trying to destroy democracy, they benefit from people who are static, who refuse to be nimble. I mean, every Democrat could just continue to run in the same direction they've been running for the last 10 years, or you could realize that this moment is different, that this threat is unique.
There's a desire from voters in the Democratic Party to see their elected representatives out in front and loud on this issue. He didn't name names, but I certainly asked him, why is a rank-and-file senator from Connecticut the one so out in front, so loud, at a time where maybe leadership, Leader Schumer, Leader Jeffries should be doing the same thing? He said, as Murphy said there in that interview, that they don't benefit from sort of the status quo. They have to be out in front. He did say the party was a big tent, but certainly they're trying to copy a little bit of what Trump was so successful in doing, in trying to get these other people in this populist message to vote and hold up the party. He's trying to bring those voters back to the Democratic Party after those stunning losses that we saw in 2024, Chris.
Thanks so much for that. Joel, we just got a press release from Chuck Schumer, and he's one of the folks who has invited as his guests some people who were fired. One of them is a disabled Army veteran. She was receiving disability but wanted to work, so she was working at the Buffalo VA helping fellow veterans obtain her benefits. She was fired. A USDA worker who was fired from her job helping farmers and business people through the Rural Development Office, a number of people who are Medicaid recipients, including one home health care worker. What do Democrats' guests tell us about the message they want to send, the image they want to project?
Well, Chris, it's about real impact, right? Individuals who are not amorphous federal workers who are a part of the blob in Washington, D.C., but people who you might go to church or synagogue with, people whose kids you go to school with your kids. These are real folks who are counting on jobs. Yeah, they're federal workers, but they're workers. And what Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Republicans are doing, it seems like, is creating an entire class of unemployed Americans who are unemployed for really no reason other than the fact that Donald Trump and Elon Musk feel like it's time to take a hatchet to the federal budget and not do it strategically. Also, beyond what Democrats are doing here, Chris, in terms of the storytelling, I think it's important the impact that's being felt in Republican areas, Republican districts like Jen Kiggans, Congresswoman of Virginia, Tom Cole, Congressman of Oklahoma. These are places that have high propensities of federal workers as well. So this is not just a story that's just told in the corridors of Washington, D.C. or in blue states across the the country. It's really impact that's felt all over the country. And I think Democrats are going to underscore that this week.
And there are increasingly people who talk to us, Brendan, who say, you know, I was never political, I'm a federal worker, and then suddenly changed. There was a worker from Health Resources and Services Administration who told NBC this. What they've done is that they've radicalized me. What they've done is they've taken someone who would have willingly served under their administration to help all of the American people. And what they've done is they've made me think that they want to destroy the republic. They want to destroy democracy. So now I am activated. Could these kinds of folks, you know, kind of come together, form a critical mass that pushes Congress to push back against Trump and Elon Musk? How do you see this playing out?
Well, I think that could happen if this is not a Washington-focused debate. And I think Democrats are making an effort to make the point that most federal workers don't live in Washington, D.C. And that's the starting point for most people's perception of this. And I think there is probably an audience, and what Elon Musk has been able to do is play to that Washington is broken, so someone clearly has to come in and break it and to fix it. What they're missing in that entirely, of course, is that there are people all across the country in communities that have nothing to do with Washington, and I think that can change the perception of what's going on. They're giving Democrats all kinds of material to work with here. At the same time, I'm not so sure that this is the issue where they're going to find their sea legs. I think that they can probably fight this back to a draw. Medicaid, deep spending cuts that affect people's services are probably much more potent for people. But I think that perhaps the best chance they have here is no president has ever really succeeded running on how many jobs they've cut. And that seems to be all Donald Trump has been talking about recently as it relates to the economy is these job cuts. So they're providing them an opening, and I don't fault Democrats for trying to step into it and fight back. But I do think that they need to be careful of stepping into a trap where they're not seen as defending Washington, defending bureaucracy. It's going to take a lot of hard work, I think, to change that narrative.
So freshman Senator Elissa Slotkin, Joel, is going to give the Democratic response. As you know, she's a moderate from Michigan, a state that Trump won. But a Detroit News analysis found that she outperformed Kamala Harris in most of the state's counties. So what does she do? If there is an opening, what should be the message?
Well, first, Chris, Godspeed to Senator Slotkin. This is the most unenviable of jobs. I'm sure Brendan would agree.
Absolutely thankless.
Yeah, absolutely thankless, because everyone is going to cow on a stage next to the president delivering address to the country in front of Congress. That said, Elissa Slotkin is a great storyteller. She can tell a story from a state in the middle of the country that chose a Democratic candidate, a state where Kamala Harris didn't perform well, but find a message that worked with a large population of working class folks in that state. Not just, by the way, this term as a Senate candidate, but previously as someone who was a member of Congress, someone who has a history as a member of the armed forces as well. And so I think that Democrats are looking for the right messengers and the right storytellers to find that message. Senator Slotkin is certainly a good option, but I would manage expectations on what anyone can do on a stage next to the president.